This story happened in Colorado, in a quiet town that had never truly healed from the horrors of the past. Because 4 years after the death of a serial kidnapper known only as the Grabber, something began to stir again. Something darker. Something that should have stayed buried. And it all started at Denver High School in 1982. During a noisy after-school brawl behind the gym, 2 brothers, Finny and Gwen, were trying to stay out of trouble. Finny, the older one, ended up beating down a local bully named Rendy, and Gwen, now a teenager, tried to pull him away before things got worse. Finny eventually dragged his little sister home, annoyed and tired. But Gwen's day didn't get any easier. Her crush, Ernesto, offered to give her a ride home, and Gwen, embarrassed by her brother's teasing, forced herself to say no. She regretted it immediately. That night, Finny went outside for a late smoke. The cold wind reminded him of the darkest memory of his childhood, the night the Grabber kidnapped him. He tried to shake the memory off, but Gwen stepped outside, telling him to come in before he got sick. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Not yet. Meanwhile, miles away, a winter camping trip was taking place at Alpine Lake Camp. A group of little kids were supposed to enjoy their first night under the snowy sky. But before dawn, the camp turned into a nightmare. Someone attacked, and by morning, several children were gone. At that same moment, Gwen jolted awake from a horrifying dream. She had seen the attack. She had seen the terrified children. She had even seen one of them scratching the letter W in the snow before disappearing. Gwen had always been different. She had dreams that came true. Her mother once had them too, before she died. So when Gwen heard a mysterious phone ringing in the middle of the night, she followed the sound straight to the abandoned basement of the Grabber's old house. There, she answered a dusty coin-operated phone that shouldn't even work. The voice on the other end whispered, "My name is Hope Adler. I'm calling from Alpine Lake." Gwen froze. Hope Adler was her mother, and she had died 25 years ago. Her mother's ghost explained that she received the number from a drowned child in a dream. She was trying to warn Gwen. Something at the lake was awakening. When the call ended, Gwen saw Max, one of the old camp counselors, standing in the shadows, wearing a strange axe-shaped necklace. He looked terrified, begging Gwen to leave the place immediately. And then footsteps echoed from above. Someone else was inside the house. Finny later found Gwen unconscious outside and dragged her home. When she woke up, she insisted they needed to go to Alpine Lake. Something was happening there. Something connected to the Grabber. Finny didn't want to remember any of it, but he also couldn't ignore his sister's fear. The next morning, Gwen convinced Ernesto to drive her to the camp. Finny, worried she'd get hurt or robbed by their irresponsible father, chose to go with them. When they arrived, the camp commander greeted them and led them to their cabin. Finny felt uneasy the moment he saw an old coin telephone hanging near the entrance. It looked exactly like the one the grabber once used. That night, while a blizzard shook the cabin walls, Gwen fell asleep and slipped back into her terrifying visions. She watched a young drummer kid being attacked. She watched 3 victims carving the initials WBH. And outside, Finny heard the coin phone ringing again. Against his better judgment, he answered it, and the voice he heard was the same voice he remembered from his childhood captivity, the grabber. The grabber threatened Finny, promising to finish what he started years ago. Meanwhile, Gwen woke up in shock, hiding from ghostly children crawling from under her bed, the same 3 victims she saw in her dreams. The next morning, Gwen showed Finny the burn marks she received inside her dream. They were real, just like the nightmares were real. Later, during breakfast, Finny casually asked the camp commander whether the old coin phone still worked. The commander insisted it had been broken for more than a decade, but Finny had heard it ringing. When Gwen showed him a photo of their mother, Hope Adler, the commander went silent. He recognized her, but something about her death he refused to talk about. Moments later, the same phone rang again, and this time, Finny heard the voices of 3 ghost children begging him for help. They didn't know where their bodies were. They didn't know how to rest. They only knew someone named WBH had killed them.
The commander gathered everyone in the old camp church. He took out an album of photos of former staff members and stopped at one man, Bill Hack, a counselor from 25 years earlier. WBH, Wild Bill Hack. The commander trembled as he admitted that Bill disappeared the same night the children went missing decades ago. Finny realized something horrifying. Bill Hack wasn't the grabber that the police killed 4 years ago. Bill Hack was the real one, the original, the one now haunting the camp. And he was growing stronger by feeding on the spirits of the children he murdered. Only one thing could weaken him: recovering the bodies of his victims. Search teams explored the frozen lake for days. Nothing turned up until Gwen dreamt again. This time, she saw a newspaper boy named Kukun getting taken deep into the woods by Bill himself. She even saw her mother trying to save him and failing. Gwen watched, screaming silently as Bill murdered her mother in the vision. The truth hit her like ice. Her mother didn't die in an accident. The grabber killed her. When she woke up, her hands were bleeding, just like in her dream. The commander ran outside to the lake and, by pure luck, found a frozen metal barrel beneath the ice. Inside was the long-lost skeleton of Felix, one of the 3 missing boys. The phone rang again. The grabber was furious. He promised to kill everyone who interfered. That night, Gwen's dream shifted. For the first time, she fought back. Inside the dream, she faced the grabber and used her inherited psychic abilities to corner him, to push him away long enough to warn the others.
Finny, Gwen, Ernesto, and the remaining counselors planned to pull the remaining barrels out of the lake. Their father arrived, demanding to bring them home, but Gwen refused. She finally told him the truth, that their mother was murdered, not taken by fate. Her father broke down. The truth he'd been running from had finally caught him. The next morning, they dragged the second barrel from the lake, then the third. When the last body surfaced, something changed. The grabber lost his strength. That night, the ghostly killer showed himself one final time, mask cracked, eyes burning with hatred. Finny stood in front of him. The same boy he once kidnapped, now grown, now unafraid. And Gwen refused to run. The siblings fought the grabber together, forcing him toward the frozen lake. And with the help of the spirits he once tormented, the icy surface beneath him shattered. The grabber plunged into the freezing water, and this time, he stayed dead. The next morning, as the rescue teams prepared to take everyone home, Gwen heard it again. The ringing of the old coin phone. She picked it up with trembling hands, and for the last time, she heard her mother's voice, warm, gentle, proud. She told Gwen to use her abilities for good, to protect Finny, to protect their father, to protect herself. When the call ended, Gwen finally let the tears fall. Finny held her, and together they left the camp, leaving the horrors of Alpine Lake behind them. But even today, some say that if you stand at the edge of that frozen water on a silent night, you can still hear a faint ringing, a call from somewhere between the living and the dead.